Good morning and welcome back to day 301 of our 365 days of Bible study. We're continuing with the Jesus story from St. Mark, which is copied by St. Matthew and St. Luke and added to in certain respects. And we are in the middle of Holy Week. This is the day when we think about the events, probably on the Wednesday, events at Bethany and the planned betrayal by Judas Iscariot. Mark chapter 14, verses 1 to 11. Now it was just 2 days before the Passover and the extended feast of unleavened bread that followed it. The chief priests and the scribes were considering how to arrest him secretly and kill him. They were saying, "Not during the festival, it will cause the people to riot." While he was in Bethany, staying at Simon the leper's house, he was sitting at the table. A woman came in with an alabaster jar of very expensive refined nard ointment. She broke the jar open and poured it over his head. Some of those present were indignant. They reproached her, saying, "What a waste of this ointment! It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and given to the poor." But Jesus said, "Let her be. Don't criticize her. She has done a beautiful thing for me. Yes, you always have the poor with you, and you can do good to them whenever you like, but you won't always have me. She has done what she was able to do. She has anointed my body ahead of my burial. But I tell you that wherever the good news is proclaimed in all the world, what she has done will be recounted in her memory." Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests, intending to inform on him. They were glad to receive this information and promised to give him money. So he started to look for an opportunity to give him away to them. So we have arrived at Mark's account of the death and resurrection of Jesus. Mark had before him the traditional story frequently repeated in church in Rome, and to that he will have added things told to him personally by Peter. Today's reading begins with part of that old Roman tradition, the story about the plot. Who would have known about this? Amongst Jesus' followers were 2 members of the Jewish council, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea. Either of them might have been the source of this story. The authorities wanted to arrest him, but were reluctant to do so for fear of a riot for which they would be held responsible by the Romans, that is, until they were approached by Judas with his offer of treachery and betrayal. At his baptism by John the Baptist, Jesus had been anointed by God's Spirit for his divine mission. Now at a friend's house, possibly remembered by Peter, Jesus is anointed by an unknown woman, not Mary Magdalene as some mistakenly have thought, first as an act of generous love, and then, as Jesus interprets it himself, as an anointing of his body ahead of his death and burial. A woman anoints him here, and later it is women who first discover that Christ has risen from the dead. Often the male disciples are seen as slow to understand, but the women are shown to be much sharper in their understanding. This occurs here too. The disciples don't understand the significance of what the woman has done, but Jesus praises her for it. And then the plot thickens. It must have been a scandalous part of the story that one of the inner circle, one of the 12, had joined the Jewish leaders in the plot to have Jesus arrested and killed. Mark gives us no clue as to why Judas did it. When Matthew and Luke come to copy these verses, they each have a different approach. Matthew adds a hint, echoed in John, that it was the money that Judas was after. Luke says that it was Satan working in Judas's heart. What do you think? I think it was Judas realizing that he was on the losing side that made him switch. All this talk about death and burial spooked him. Once Jesus was dead, they would soon all be dead, he thought. So, better to change sides now, in the nick of time. I may be wrong in my guess, though. What do you think? Whatever his motive, his offer to the authorities made it possible to get the whole dreadful thing done quickly before the feast. Tomorrow, we visit that well-known and well-commemorated scene in the upper room and that amazingly memorable Thursday night supper. I'll see you tomorrow.